The children from the Methodist foster home planned a bus trip to a nearby village on October 5, 1965. However, the journey took an unexpected turn when the bus suffered a flat tire, diverting them to the Wildcat cave instead. Morris Battelle and his friends, thrilled by the impromptu adventure, eagerly seized the opportunity to explore the cave openly this time. But as they ventured further, Morris got separated from his friends in the maze-like passages. Panic set in as he realized he was alone. He called out, but his voice echoed into silence. Desperate for help, he tried to find his way back to the entrance. He again called out for anyone else to come find him, but there was still silence. He was far too deep into the cave now. Morris was in a state of panic and agony as he navigated the treacherous terrain, trying to make his way back to the cave exit. His friends, who had already left the cave, thought he had exited before them and didn't realize he was still inside. But Morris was far from safe. He knew shouting for help was futile, so he focused on getting out alive. As he turned a corner, he realized he had taken a wrong turn and was now heading down a slippery passage that was getting narrower by the second. The walls were closing in, and he saw a small crevice with massive boulders on either side. To escape, he had to squeeze through the tiny opening head first. Taking a deep breath, he pushed himself through the narrow, slippery crack. This was the most challenging thing he had ever done in his life. As he wiggled his way through, one of the boulders suddenly shifted, trapping him between the wall and the rock. Morris was stuck, and his situation had just become even more dire. Morris froze, his mind reeling from the close call. He had almost gotten stuck, and the realization sent a chill down his spine. He knew he had to be more cautious, as one misstep could lead to disaster. Panic and fear resurfaced in his eyes, and he could only hope that he was heading in the right direction. But fate had other plans. As he moved forward, the boulder shifted again, and Morris's worst fear became a reality. He was stuck, and the weight of the rocks pressed against his body, making it hard to breathe. He tried to free himself, but his efforts only made him more wedged. Eventually, he became completely lodged, unable to move anything except his feet, which protruded from the passage. The boulders were pressing against his body, and pretty soon it began to hurt. He was in so much pain, and because breathing was getting difficult, he had to take deep, sharp breaths. Knowing that his legs were free behind him, he tried to somehow pull himself out. The harder he tried, the more he realized it was impossible to get himself out of there. He was completely helpless, blaming himself for being stupid enough to get in this situation. After an hour, Morris's friends realized he was missing and told their teacher, William Powell. Powell, being smaller than Morris, entered the cave with two boys to search for him. They finally found Morris after a few minutes, and Powell tried to calm him down, telling him he would be okay. But Morris was struggling to speak, and only his feet were visible from the narrow hole he was stuck in. Powell tried to rescue Morris by using his belt to pull him out. He tied it on Morris's leg and started pulling. Considering it was a slippery area, he thought the force would slip him out. But the belt snapped, causing Morris's slip in the narrow passage even further, and his face to hit the rock and resulting in a painful cut. This made the situation even more dire. Realizing traditional methods wouldn't work, Powell called professional rescuers for help. Fire Chief Paul Codera led a team to the cave, but they couldn't extract Morris using hooks, which was their initial plan that failed. The situation was becoming increasingly desperate. Firefighters set up a portable generator to light the cave and piped oxygen to Morris. They thought carefully about how to free him, but drilling into the rock could cause a cave-in, and using dynamite was not an option. They were running out of time. As the situation dragged on into the night, hopes began to fade. Morris was barely conscious, and the news of the trapped boy spread quickly across the country, making front-page headlines and featuring on national television programs. Radio broadcasts asked for help from small people, and many responded. Evelyn Pinky Petite, a nurse from Akron with a 5'2" stature, drove to the cave and managed to wriggle into the passage, comforting Morris for nearly 3 hours. Another experienced cave explorer, Terry Brown, set up a makeshift pulley system in order to get him out, but despite the efforts, Morris only moved a few inches. As the minutes turned into hours and the day turned into a cold, freezing night, the rescue attempts were becoming increasingly desperate. Morris was struggling to stay alive, and time was running out. The next morning, rescuers were still searching for small volunteers to help save Morris, but no one was small enough or strong enough to reach him. Morris had gone 24 hours without food or water, and he was starting to lose hope. Just when all seemed lost, a brave young boy named Michael Yid, an Eagle Scout, stepped forward to save Morris. A new plan was devised. They would put loops of rope around Morris, make him slippery with a glycerin solution, and lift him out on a support board. It was a risky plan, but it was their only hope. Yid crawled into the cave until he reached Morris's legs, which were sticking out of the narrow passage. No one else had gotten this close before. Yid tied ropes around Morris's ankles, legs, and body, and began to pull with all his might. They struggled to pull him out of the crack, and just when they thought they had him, Morris slipped and fell back into the passage. He was starting to think he would never make it out alive. Rescuers were desperate to keep Morris optimistic, knowing that if he passed out, they wouldn't be able to get him out. Morris slipped a few more times, and it seemed like all hope was lost. Finally, with firm tugging from above, he broke free. Cheers erupted as Morris was wrapped in a blanket and lifted out of the passage, more than 24 hours of being stuck. After a harrowing rescue, Morris was finally freed from the cave and taken to the hospital, where he was treated for exhaustion, cuts, bruises, and a facial bruise. The incident could have ended in tragedy, but a lucky twist of fate saved him. As a precaution, the cave was sealed shut to prevent future accidents. At 44 years old, Cecilio Lopez had spent over 2 decades delving into the unknown, exploring caves and diving into their mysterious depths. His dedication to the Madrid Rescue Group for over 15 years earned him a reputation as one of Spain's foremost cave rescuers, a title he wore with pride. But it was not just the thrill of adventure that motivated Cecilio. It was the possibility of making history. He dreamed of discovering ancient artifacts and uncovering forgotten civilizations buried beneath the earth. Peru, with its uncharted caves and untold secrets, called to Cecilio like a siren song. He wanted to explore its deep, winding caverns, to unravel the mysteries hidden within their rocky embrace. And so, when he heard of the Intimache cave, rumored to hold extreme archaeological potential, he knew he had to see it for himself. Gathering a team of skilled explorers, Cecilio embarked on a journey to the remote cave site in northern Peru. The expedition was fraught with danger, as they navigated narrow passageways and descended into abyssal depths. September 18, 2014, marked the final day of the exploration campaign, and Cecilia, along with 2 colleagues, embarked on a thrilling adventure to explore the deepest section of the Intimus cave. This high-risk expedition required preparation, and they packed all their gear, including ropes and harnesses, and got moving. As they entered the cave, the scorching heat and humidity hit them like a wall. The team was covered in sweat as they climbed over the boulders and down the horizontal shaft. Cecilia leads the way in a sense of urgency. After reaching a central vertical shaft, they anchored themselves to the cave. They quickly get themselves down this section with no issues. However, it doesn't stop there, as they plan to go further down the cave, allowing for more opportunities to explore. The team had made it very deep into the cave, and now they are at a depth of 1,300 feet. This part is uncharted, and the most dangerous section is right before them. Now they faced the most perilous section of the cave, a narrow and treacherous passage that demanded their utmost attention. The team contorted their bodies through the tight tunnels, their focus divided between navigating the terrain and uncovering ancient secrets. Cecilia called for a brief halt before tackling the technical descent, allowing the team to rest and recharge. As they refocused on the challenge ahead, the team knew they had to overcome a technical descent before venturing deeper into the cave. The anchor point on the cave wall appeared sturdy, but the risk was palpable. If the anchor gave way, anyone attached would fall straight down at high speed into the rock pit below. This was the most dangerous part of the expedition. With his teammates' help, Cecilia carefully set up the anchor, trying to make it as secure as possible. As he began his descent down the shaft, he suddenly heard a faint shift in the rock. His heart racing, he braced himself for the worst. The anchor pulled out, and Cecilia fell 15 feet to the rocky cave floor, landing with a loud thud. Miraculously, he avoided the jagged rocks, but the impact sent excruciating pain coursing up his spine. He let out a deafening cry, his vision blurring as he struggled to comprehend the severity of his injuries. This was Cecilia's worst injury in 20 years of exploring, and it couldn't have happened in a more dreadful location. He had broken ribs and an incomplete fracture of his third lumbar vertebra, leaving him unable to move. The prospect of climbing out on his own was impossible. He was trapped. As the realization set in, Cecilia's terror turned to panic. He couldn't feel his legs, and the thought of being stranded in the depths of the cave was unbearable. One of Cecilia's teammates made his way down to him and was shocked by the situation. Cecilia was in a lot of pain and couldn't move. After a while, he started thinking about how he could be rescued. The team decided that one person would leave the cave to get help, while the other stayed with Cecilia. For 5 days, Cecilia lay on the cave floor, unable to move. He could only stare at a rock on the ceiling. Finally, a Peruvian medical team arrived and gave him morphine to ease the pain, but Cecilia still needed to be rescued and taken to a hospital. The problem was that Cecilia needed a special stretcher to protect him from further injury during the rescue. The stretcher had to be able to withstand the rough journey out of the cave. The team realized that getting help was going to be harder than they thought. The Spanish government initially refused to assist, so they turned to the Peruvian government and then the Madrid Caving Federation for help. Thanks to social media and the caving community, the Spanish government finally agreed to launch a rescue mission. A group of Cecilia's friends flew to Peru to rescue him, and soon hundreds of volunteers from all over Spain joined the effort. After days of preparation, the rescue operation began. A camp was set up outside the cave, and a massive rescue effort was planned. However, the remote location and harsh weather conditions, constant rain and 9,000 feet above sea level, posed significant logistical challenges. The team lacked essential supplies like food, water, communication equipment, and blankets. Despite these obstacles, the locals offered support, and a priest even donated a cow for the rescue team to eat. International experts from Italy, France, Mexico, and 40 Peruvian soldiers and firefighters joined the rescue effort, led by a colonel from Peru's Emergency Management Agency. Rescuers descended into the cave, explained the rescue plan to Cecilia, and set up a technical rope system to extract him safely. They established a camp 900 feet deep in the cave and spent 12 days preparing for the rescue. Cecilia remained immobilized and in pain at the bottom of the cave during this time. Finally, the rescue team used the extensive rigging system to extract Cecilia from the cave. A Peruvian Air Force helicopter transported him to a medical center in heavy winds. After months of complicated medical treatments, Cecilia made a full recovery and plans to continue exploring caves in the area.